Here's the new project. What's up, guys? Pete, back on Pete Tech. Welcome to the video for you guys that either one, bought a supercharger kit, or two, are looking to install your own supercharger kit on your 370Z or G37. Should be pretty similar. Now, this video is intended to show you all of the things that are going to come along with doing a supercharger kit. So you might be thinking about taking your naturally aspirated or NA 370Z and boosting it. Well, you clicked on the right video because we're going to show you a tutorial of what it takes to go from completely stock to completely boosted at 500 wheel horsepower. And we're going to keep it very easy for you guys at home. So maybe you're trying to take this on in your garage. Well, sit down, eat some popcorn, and enjoy the video series because I'm going to walk you through this and keep it simple. So anyways, enough talking. We're going to show you how to make it look like this when you pop the hood.
0, 1. Let's get started.
Alright, this is what we're working with under hood. Stock VQ, mated to an automatic transmission, non-LSD on some wheels and tires. Alright, so let's start off with one of the most important things that you're going to need for this build. Tools! If you guys don't have tools, you're going to need tools. Alright, now we'll go to the second. So let's say you got the tools, you got the willpower, you're going to need a Roadtrex Supercharger kit. Now this is Top Gun's Roadtrex Supercharger kit. Aaron is an awesome dude. Shout out to Aaron. I highly recommend buying the kit from him. The amount of support you will get, knowledge, and question answering is second to none. Or you can go with a big box store that you can send emails to and wait 48 to 72 business hours per email. He sends you everything you need for the supercharger part of it. Now, you're going to need something else. You're going to need a bunch else. You're going to need fuel, okay? This is the most overlooked part of everyone's build, is the fuel system. So, you're going to need somewhere clean to work, for one. We'll keep this real simple, okay? You're going to need a hat. You're going to need this right here, CJM. Shout out to Charles, dude. You rock. He is the wizard of this industry for fueling and for most of the custom VQ stuff and VR. So you're going to need a hat. You're going to need rails, CJM rails. You don't need custom rails, but if you want to make power, you're going to need a return system. And for that, you're going to need more fuel supply. You're going to need special parts. So CJM rails, CJM billet hat. Then you're going to have the whole installation kit for those. Look at this. Comes with pins, comes with everything you need. Here's the lines. You're also going to need a relay kit, fuel pressure gauge, fuel pressure regulator, fuel filter, and of course, the fuel pump. That's a 340. That will get you to 500 on pump, regardless of what people want to say. Next is injectors. You are not going to make any power on stock injectors. In fact, even on an NA build, it's hard. So this is not necessarily my go-to. I'll just tell you right now. Okay, I am an ID, Injector Dynamics, fan through and through. That's all I run on my personal builds. This for a customer. This is FID's, Fuel Injector Development. These are, they should be fine. Okay, so we got the injectors. These right here are actually size-wise, I think these are 1,000. Now, if you want to go more power, go bigger injectors. My personal recommendation to you is ID 1300s. So remember that. ID 1300s, or have your way with whatever injectors you want. So this is basically everything we're going to need for fuel. The very third thing, or third category, is software, okay? So This is what you guys are going to want to be on right here. Accutech. You'll get a dongle. You'll get, actually, I'm not going to get into all the Accutech stuff. That's way down the line. We'll show you that later. Third thing, or fourth thing, I should say, is cooling, okay? Now, I don't have this torn apart. You are more than likely going to want an oil cooler. You're going to want something to keep the temps down on the oil if you live anywhere south of Illinois or beyond. Okay, so finally we're going to get into the smaller stuff, which is, and I'm not going to go through everything. You're going to need spark plugs, GTR OEM plugs. That's the way to go. This one is getting high flow cats, which I didn't show you guys. Okay, so these are the high flows that it's getting. He went with the good stuff. So let's take a look and see what we got. Let's start with the heart and soul. This is the Rotrex CR38. This is a badass unit right here. It makes way better power than the previous generation Vortec units. It is oil cooled with its own oil feed system, so it actually comes with a cooler that you'll see right here. And that gets mounted obviously in front by the intercooler, but it keeps this unit nice and cool, keeps the oil temps down so you can enjoy it for a very, very long time. Then obviously we're going to have the belt and the pulleys that come with it to adapt your serpentine drive system to fit this unit. This is probably one of the nicest pieces in the whole kit. Again, this is the Top Gun Speedworks Rotrex kit. This is good for at least 850, potentially up to 1,000 horsepower. I run the same unit on my G37. IATs stay nice and cool. Absolutely love that intercooler. Then obviously you're going to get all the charge piping. You can kind of elect to do whatever color you want on the stuff that's going to be visible, which is these three pipes right here. In this case, we're going black. We're going chrome for the other three. And then this is super nice. This pipe is actually the intake for the Rotrex unit itself, which is going to be filtered through a high quality filter. You're also going to get the blow off. This is a high quality, obviously, precision blow off valve for this unit. You're going to get all your hoses, all your high quality clamps. You're going to get coolant reservoir to relocate the coolant overflow or the coolant swirl pot. You're going to also get a reservoir for oil for the Supercharger unit, because that Rotrex is actually runs an oil system. So it's going to run obviously that oil cooler. It's got to have a storage tank for that oil cooler, and then all the lines with it. Obviously you're going to get all your silicone couplers. And the best part, you're going to get a full instruction manual to go ahead and go through this, which makes the kit that much easier to install. This is super nicely packaged. It comes in about 2 boxes, which I've already broken down. There was box number 1, box number 2, quite a bit taller, but I cut it down already. So it's something you can fit in the back of your sedan when you pick it up, or if he ships it to you. Very well packaged, very nice, high quality kit. I'm just laying it out so you guys can kind of see what's involved with the kit. And we're going to go ahead and install it. So some of this I'm going to do a voiceover for, but this part you see me doing, I'm taping the front bumper. That's just to prevent damage. This was a customer car, so I want to keep it mint. You're going to strip the whole front end off, fender liners, headlights, bumper. Basically get as much as you can out of the way, because this kit is very intricately ran through the front end. And so the next thing you're going to want to do is drain the cooling system. You're going to need all those hoses out of the way, everything off the front of the engine, and then you're going to get it prepped to pull the intake plenum. All right, so you guys kind of saw we stripped everything off. And if you're doing it the easy way, again, you got to do an evac to do it, but you would pull the whole core support, because then you got the whole front. At that time, you got high mileage. Do your gallery gaskets. I got a video on that Maybe I'll link it in this video, but check the channel out. There's a lot of EQ stuff. So now you're here, you're excited, you got it apart, you want to install your supercharger kit as fast as you can. Nope, not so fast. Leave everything off so you have room to work with, especially this area too, because what we're going to do next is we're going to take the intakes off, we're going to take the plenum off, we're going to plug all the ports, and then we're going to start on the fuel system. So make sure you do this. Again, yes, it's a soft top. Move your seat all the way forward. You're going to be working in this area for the fuel pump. Disclaimer, if you're full of fuel, that's not good. But we're actually going to pull that pump out. That'll be kind of step one. Step two will be plumbing the fuel return system, which I highly recommend if you're going to go boosted, because you are going to want to turn your car up later. Do it all at once. It's way easier, especially if you're going to be in there doing rails and injectors. Anyway, all this stuff's going to come off the top of the motor, and then we're going to do the rails, injectors, the return system, the fuel pump. Once we have that plumbed, we're going to get into all the drama on the front. Most of you guys are going to want to do it and vice versa, because you want to see your nice supercharger mounted right up front. But all it's going to do is limit your space and set you backwards. So you're going to have to try a little harder to make some space when you do this return system. You're going to need access to kind of this area and then where it drops down by the tank. So go ahead, take your bolts out right here for the seat belt, which is right here. Take this panel off, just a bunch of pop clips. Show it to you. And the audio will only suck for this clip. But yeah, that's that. This also, if you're struggling, it's just a pop clip too. That's the panel that sits in there. And then you take this little rubber thing off. Now you got all the space you need to get that pump out. We're gonna pull that sender out, and then what we're gonna do, pull the sender out, and then we're gonna put duct tape over the top of the gas tank, because you don't want anything falling in there. And then we got the pump and a nice clean bucket. This step is really simple. You're just going to take off the undershield for all the fuel lines, because you are going to need to access that area. We're going to hop over here. You're going to take that bracket that sits right here. There's 2 10 mils. Pop it off. See how the lines are loose now? You're ready to go up top at this point. Now you are going to remove the intakes on it. You're going to remove the intake plenum, all your hoses, and then make sure you plug those lower intake ports. All right, so we got the plenum off, obviously. We got all the ports sealed up. Blow this area off nice and good, get it all cleaned up, and then this is what we're attacking right here. This is basically where the factory feed comes into the rail. So this goes underneath this bracket into both rails. Right now what we're after is disconnect this, pull the rest of the line all the way through, remove the lower, and then plug all the ports on the cylinder head. We're going to start building the rails. We're going to start on the fuel system. So right here you'll see this is just removing the rails, because obviously we're going to have to move the factory rails to get our new ones in there. All right, so we got our CJM rails, CJ Motorsports. These are a beautiful piece of equipment. Now, do you need to ball out like this? Not really, but all your quality should be in the fuel system. Do not skip out on the fuel system. It is the most important part of any boosted build. We got to put in our dampers, install our crossover, and then get our injectors prepped to install, and then copy the wire harness over. We do have our injectors here, and then what we also have is the PMPs, the plug and plays. Disclaimer, if you have not done fuel stuff before, make sure that you lube the O-rings on those dampers, on where the AN lines go in, All that stuff needs lube to seal. Secondly, make sure you copy the injector harness the exact same way it was set up on the factory rails. All right, so here's the scoop. We got all the injectors in. This is when you start to pull the caps off. We already cleaned out all the ports, which I'll show you that. But you got all your PMPs in, you got your harness right here. We're going to go ahead and install the injectors, and then we're going to come and install the harness over the top of that. So we got the rail in, basically in. A little bit of an oversight. I usually flip these manifolds around. In this case, I'm not going to. We're going to run the crossover on the front. That's actually the way it's intended, which I was not aware of. So crossover on the front, and then connections on the back. It's looking like I'll be able to tuck all these PNPs and the harness. So you'll see I have wrapped the harness in harness tape. Everything's going to be secure, nothing floating around, nothing that can get pinched by the intake plenum. Just make sure it's a clean job for the wiring. All right, we're going to go to the fuel pump. So I can't show you every step of the process, but let's keep it real simple. The level sensor has a little squeeze tab right on the side. So we'll show you that. There's that squeeze tab. Pop it off, and you're going to cut all your wires. Now, you're going to want to label what your wires are according to this connector right here. So you can do a continuity test very easily, or you can just see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a row. I wrote them down right here. The bottom of the hat is 11 1/4 tall. Then we got fuel pump, level plus, fuel pump minus, and obviously ground. Fuel temp signal, and then ground for fuel temp and level. So super simple. Cut your wires, but label them first because you're going to have to do some splicing. Cut the top of the hat off. We're going to disconnect this hose. We're not going to need that hose anymore because we're going to be upgrading the pump unit that's in here. So I am not going to give you step-by-step on building this fuel pump. Here you'll see a little hack. If you want to create more capacity, you can take that filter out. That's on the inside of the basket. You're also going to have to cut to get the regulator out, which you're seeing right there. Specialty Z has a wonderful video series on building these fuel pumps. I highly recommend you check that out because it is a little bit tricky if you don't know what you're doing. And remember, cleanliness is the most important part about this. Here you'll see it all assembled. It's got the CJ regulator. It's got the pump in it. You're going to have to bend that sock to get it into the basket. Again, go check out Specialty Z. They kind of show you how to do it. But this was the furthest I can do with a stock basket as far as modding it out to fit a 340, which is what that is. All right, fuel system is in. Now, here's the deal, guys. I built this differently than a lot of you guys are going to build it. Do you absolutely need a return system? No. Should you have a return system? Yes, because you're going to want to turn your car up later on. So I built this fuel system in a way that I ran actually custom lines, feed and return, using some of the CJM stuff. You're obviously going to just follow his instructions on his kit if you get a CJM kit. Fuel system will be the most time-consuming part of the build, so you need to keep that in mind, right? I got the injectors in with all the plug-and-plays. Rails are in. Lines are in. Regulators in. We'll show you kind of as far as in the car here. So we got the CJM billet hat in there. Everything's wired up. I've already tested it. Here's our relay. So basically you tap into, and you'll see what I did here, which is basically I wrote myself pinouts for the pin assignments on the hat. But you cycle the key, you command the pump on the factory wires. send power to the relay, which then sends higher current to the fuel pump via this heavier gauge line that comes directly from the battery. So this is stuff you're going to need to keep in mind. This is the guy right here. This heavier gauge wire brings power to the relay, fused with a 30 amp fuse. Yes, he's got subs in here. Obviously you might not have that, but we're charging the battery up right now. Once you get everything in, you're going to have a way to leak check the fuel system. Okay, for some of you that might be challenging, I have a scan tool where I can use bidirectional control, turn the pump on, turn the pump off when I want, and adjust my regulator while at the same time checking for leaks. Now, if you don't have a way to do that, you're going to want to either borrow a scan tool or get set up on Ecutech so that you can leak check this. Because once you put everything together, if you got a leak somewhere or something's not quite right, you're going to be hurting. All right, we're going to go ahead and turn the pump on. I've already set my system pressure. As you can see, we got a nice even sound coming through. This is how simple it is to check for leaks. You're going to run the system for about a minute, and then you're going to go around and you're going to check all the areas. So we're going to check in here, make sure we got no leaks. We're going to check underneath here, make sure we got no leaks. And there, look at that, we got a leak right there. All right, fuel system is complete. Here's what I would anticipate on this. About probably 2 hours, maybe 2.5, maybe 3, depending on your speed to do the fuel pump. I would say another 2-ish hours messing with fuel lines. I would say another 2 hours getting the rails out, getting all those together. So prepare, the fuel system is going to take you a while. And then as far as making sure there's no leaks or whatever else, who knows how long that'll take you. Now we're going to go ahead and bolt the supercharger kit on. This, I'll give you timing as we go through it. But if you're at this point already, everything's already stripped off. This should go relatively quick. Where it gets tricky is mounting all your coolers and all the stuff that isn't just completely straightforward. It does require a little bit of finesse and a little bit of know-how. Again, Top Gun Speedworks Rotrex Supercharger kit. Congratulations. All right, we'll skip through this. Vehicle must be tuned. You guys already know this. So as far as disassembly, we've already gotten there, but it's literally step by step. I mean, this is the kind of stuff you get with Aaron. It'll walk you through every single aspect of installing this kit. There's your belt routing diagram right here. So obviously the cooling fans need to be moved out of the way by this point. Next, you're going to start disassembling the wire harness on the driver's side VTC cover. You are going to have to move the dipstick. You're going to have to relocate those tabs as you're seeing me do right there to get the pulley on. And then lastly, make sure you pay attention to this next clip. So just a little pro tip that I'm actually a little salty about. I had to take this all back apart. You have to swap the bank 1 and bank 2 oil control solenoids for the, I should say, camshaft timing control solenoid has to be swapped from bank 1 to bank 2 and vice versa. Otherwise your connector will sit here and it'll rub on the belt. But the setup's pretty easy. I recommend doing this with the cooling fans out. I got the transmission cooler lines disconnected. Very easy to pull the fan shroud up, get it in place. So we're gonna keep on moving. Next one, if you happen to get the intake for this kit, you are going to have to cut into the chassis of the car right next to the radiator. You have to basically make space to get a 3-inch pipe through that opening, which you're going to have to remove the supercharger in and out to mock it up and see if you have the proper clearance. Another pro tip, it is a pain in the butt to clearance this for the intake. So I actually ended up cutting into the top of the chassis a little bit, cutting into the side over here, bending this out. I want as much clearance as I can possibly get. And now we have a straight shot for the intake coupler and then the intake sitting right there. After that, the rest of this kit is relatively straightforward. It really just becomes a game of Tetris, if you will. Putting the charge pipes in, not very hard. Fitting all of the coolers, especially automatic transmission cooler, as well as the oil cooler, as well as the Rotrex cooler, all behind the intercooler was quite the task. So you'll see me putting it back together. You know, I did crack the code finally. I got it all clearanced, torquing the intake down, cleaning it up again, and then you're going to run all the charge piping. It's time consuming. It's not super difficult. The hard part is the steps we already passed over. So one of the things I am going to tell you now too, soap and water. Just remember that when you're trying to put this charge system together. The couplers are very high quality. They're very tacky. They will not move very easily unless they got some lubrication. The soap and water will cook off, so you don't gotta worry about the couplers popping off. This kit will be missing odds and ends, just like every single kit. So you will end up spending a significant amount of time on literally just trying to find hardware, because it does not come with every single thing you need. It does come with about 95% of what you need. Once you get your first phone flash from your tuner, now becomes the fun part, the first cold start. All right, guys, guess what? Guess what? We're all finished up. This is a job complete. Look, check this out, you guys. Look at this. Just look at it. That's what your finished product's gonna look like. I'll tell you what. Here's the setup. After all that hard work, it's all installed. So it's all installed. We used EcuTech phone flash. I want to give a huge shout out to Ben Lee at VPF Tuning. Dude is awesome to work with. Makes it so easy. And I'll tell you what, I think we had about probably 7 revisions, which doesn't take very long. It's essentially 7 test drives before this thing was making probably north of 500 wheel. So not only that, making north of 500 wheel conservatively. So I want to say this right now. This kit was not super easy to install. I'm going to say that again. It's not super easy to install, but it's also not super hard to install. It is just time consuming. That's the biggest thing about it. So I'm going to show you guys some sound clips. I'm going to show you it running. I'll show you a test drive. But at the end of the day, once you're done, once you're all finished with the Supercharger kit, you get it tuned, you get all that, you have a 370Z or G37 that is completely streetable. And when I say completely, I mean this thing drives like a bone stock 370Z until you get on the gas. Now that being said, when you're just cruising around, the sounds it makes are phenomenal. This is the first official test drive on the final tune. Well, I shouldn't say final tune, but the healthy tune. The go ahead and send it tune. So we're gonna get on it in third. So here's third from 2 grand. Actually, we gotta speed up just a little bit. We'll do it from 3,000 and punch it after the stoplight. Uphill even. Woohoo! It feels like OEM almost. Like you have all that power there. It doesn't punch you in the face, but it sets you back hard. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo! He needs to get an Akabono brake kit on here bad. Alright, and that's a wrap. Other than that, drive is pretty stock. So here's my final thoughts on this, you guys. A little bit of background. I have a 600 wheel horsepower G37 sedan on a Vortec V3 SI. This car, in every way, shape, and form, is way more responsive. The boost comes on faster. It makes better noises. The Rotrex unit is just far superior to any Vortec or Stillen-based kit. So if you're on the fence of which way you should go, Z1, yes, they sell a Rotrex kit as well. Top Guns, you're going to get better service. You're way better instruction manual. And for the most part, you're supporting a local dude versus a big box store. But I will just say this. If I had to go back in time, I would have picked this kit over a Vortec V3 SI. The car is fast. The car is fast enough where you're going to beat most of the cars you roll up on in a street race. You're going to blow the doors right off. I think when we're finished, it's about 5.25 to the wheel, which is plenty to have a good time in a 370Z. Now, with that being said, could you go higher in power? Absolutely. That Rotrex unit will run way up into the 600 or 700 range, depending on what pulley option you order it with through Aaron. So, final thoughts are this. I absolutely love the car. I love the Supercharger setup, and I think it is hands down, for the money, the best boosted kit that you can put on these cars as far as simplicity and reliability. And that is a wrap.